Hello, everyone. Welcome to Chasing a Murderer. And today I kind of wanted to go over an update. So, I've been fighting COVID lately. I've got several videos that I just haven't finished. So, just hang in there. Right now, I wanted to talk a little bit about the story that came out of Idaho, Dylan Rounds, the young guy who was interested in starting his own farm in the middle of a desert. And last talked to his grandmother, and since then, just no one knows what happened to him. I have videos on this story you can go and check out if you're not familiar with it. But just know that when this story first broke, the parents were very determined to figure out what happened to their son. They know Dylan, and Dylan wouldn't just drop off the face of the map without letting somebody know where he was, what he's doing, and if he promised to call someone back, he would do it. When the story first broke, it really come out, it wasn't handled very well. They were talking, well, the parents didn't understand how the crime community works. I think they come out talking about what they knew and how they were investigating themselves. And they were sharing bits and pieces of information that they understood that no one else did. So they weren't able to fill in the in between details. This led to a very big problem. So a lot of speculations and names that were mentioned that really had nothing to do with this. Well, they went after those people as if they were suspects. They also had a PI on this case, and which also ended up ultimately causing issues. And man, did YouTube, the crime community, take off with this case. Nate Eaton, I think, is the one that really brought it to light at first. While there were a few channels just trying to bring positive light and trying to help the family, there were others manipulating and taking advantage of it. Eventually, police, instead of uh, following the YouTube channels that were going down an empty road, slowly but surely we started getting information of what would be true information that might lead to what happened to Dylan Rounds. Now, a few of us were focused on the neighbors that were out there on the property. We heard there was lots of squatters out there, and Dylan had actually hired a few hands to help him around the farm. One of those hands being goes by the name James Brenner, which was also a squatter. He's from South Dakota, I think, or was it North Dakota? I can't remember. And luckily, a neighbor come forward and talk to the FBI, which also helped get the ball rolling, which direction to start investigating. And the guy that come forward was actually, before that, considered a person of interest. And now we are approaching a year anniversary of the disappearance of Dylan Round, and we didn't have much information. However, they did at the start of this investigation, which was the family got on it pretty quick. Searchers actually located boots that belonged to Dylan, and those boots, Mom said he would not take off his feet, that those boots meant everything to him. And finding those boots out by a dirt pile, well, that meant there was a possibility that something went awry. Now, let me tell you, with all the attention that this got at the very beginning and with the parents talking so openly, police and investigators actually kept everything wrapped up tight. I was surprised by that. And right now, it was a matter of processing everything in order to get answers and justice for the family. James Brenner was eventually arrested. However, he wasn't charged in the murder or disappearance of Dylan Round. Well, that has changed. Nate Eaton of East Idaho News come out sharing some new documents that come out on this case attached to Dylan Rounds and shared a little more details of what police found that led them to James Brenner. Some of these discoveries were quite shocking and quite lucky, to be honest. Investigators discovered that James Renner's has a violent history. And Nate Eaton reminded us that James was a convicted felon. He was not supposed to have firearms in his home or in his presence, but he did. And now he has charges for aggravated murder. Count 2, abuse or desecration of a human body on or about May 20th of 2022. So I'm sorry guys, I got the dates mixed up. So we're approaching a year. It feels like a year. We're just a month and a few weeks over the anniversary of this case. So investigators suspect that James Brenner did something with Dylan's remains. Though we don't know if they know what happened to him, how it was done. We have to wait and see. Nate Eaton said he spoke to his mother, who said that she remains optimistic and that they plan on searching for her son's remains once spring arrives and the snow and the ice begin to melt. So, according to investigators and written inside these documents, they believe that, not only did James Brenner take the life of this young guy, but also desecrated his remains. And all I can say is I'm very proud of the investigators because they were having to deal with a very pushy family that was hard to deal with. And well, you can understand why they wanted to push. But the investigators, they acted professional, didn't take it personal, and continued doing their job. And now the family's about to start seeing justice. They're getting answers, although that's not the answers they were hoping for. So let's talk about what was discovered. Remember the boots attached to this case? Remember that they thought that there might have been a blood stain on the boots. Those boots were mishandled according to the parents, but the tests say otherwise. It turns out that they discovered that the blood stain actually belonged to Dylan Rounds as well as the defendant in this case, James Brenner. Phone records were actually gone over in detail where they discovered the movements of James Brenner on a property on Lucin. Allegedly, this is the property and farm of Dylan Rounds. It's around that area and on it. They discovered that James Brenner indeed was a squatter. They also discovered that Dylan Rounds' phone was last given signal at the pond on his farm. And what's very interesting about this part, this is the reason that they find Dylan's phone, according to documents. Now, wait until you discover what they found on this phone. They found the phone at the bottom of a pond. And Nate Eaton said that he don't think that he reported that at the time because that's something that needed to be off the record. Also, according to Nate Eaton, he said when they found this phone, the phone had been underwater for months and that they were able to collect this phone, not only get it, but able to collect information and data off of that phone. They discover a time-lapse video with a timestamp that matched the date of the victim's disappearance. And Nate Eaton said that this leads him to believe that this video that they discovered, it's possible that Dylan was recording when things started to go down. And how lucky are they to have this if, what happened to Dylan? Well, it's what they suspected. They had the evidence. And this video is quite incriminating because they just see James Brenner in the video with blood covering his arms and on his shirt. And this is while he is cleaning a gun. What it says for me is that he has this kid's phone and he doesn't know that is recording and he's trying to take care of the evidence. It reminds me of Jodi Arias in her case, where she had a camera and accidentally took pictures of her own foot at the crime scene. You can tell that Nate Eaton was very excited by this evidence, and he was wondering, how did this video start recording? Was it by accident? Did Dylan turn it on? Did James Brenner turn it on? And Nate Eaton says, this is like a needle in a haystack, and this is very strong evidence. So, we're just hearing about this now. We've heard that when they located this phone, it's months after he's disappeared. So it just seems like right now they're just building their case until finally they were able to make an arrest and charge James Brenner with murder. And with a video like that, it sounds like there's a possibility that they caught their man. And a lot of people are like, well, how is that solid, evidence? He could have been hunting. That's true. Well, here's the thing. They find the shirt, they find blood stains on it, they test it, and guess what? It does belong to Dylan Rounds. So in the documents, they say that they do question James only to get false statements, and they know they're false. They tried their best to locate the whereabouts of the missing Dylan Rounds, but said they were not able to do so since, they believed that James went beyond what he needed to in order to hide him. So, guys, you can go and check out the documents on East Idaho News. Nate Eaton says he will post them there. It's just a small paragraph in this probable cause that I think a lot of you will be interested in reading. Again, this is just another sad case, another instance where a family has to struggle to get through living without someone that means a lot to them. And I just hope that they find the justice and peace that they all deserve. Love you guys, and I'll see you guys soon.